Good evening, everyone. My name is Robertson Castor. I'm a senior project manager for the Public Facilities Department over at the City of Boston. I apologize that my camera isn't working right now. It's had a long day, apparently. But thank you all for coming out tonight. We're excited to share our latest updates regarding the BCYF Dorchester Community Center project. Um, we'll turn it over to the next slide.
Hi, good evening.
I'll pass this to Petra.
Yep. Thanks, Robertson. We have a number of language interpretation channels available for you tonight. We have Cape Verdean Creole, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Haitian Creole. If you would like to listen to this presentation in any of those languages, you can go to the bottom of your Zoom screen. There should be an interpretation button with a little language symbol, and you should be able to select your preferred language there. And please write in the chat if you're having trouble getting it to work. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Petra. So I'd like to just go over the agenda for tonight's meeting. First, we'll be introducing the parties and departments that are responsible for this project and overseeing this and involved in this project. Then we'll touch base on the overall schedule, project schedule and the process and where we're at currently in this process. After that, we'll provide an update of where we're at up to date, so progress to date. And then fourth will be cost saving options. And then number 5 will be next steps, just what's gonna happen after this, direction we're gonna go in after this meeting. And then we'll end the evening with the Q&A. So any questions you have, please feel free to either put it in the chat or at the Q&A discussion. Hit the button to raise your hand and we'll make sure to call on you and give you a chance to ask your question. And just to kind of go over this, we're at this point in this project where we finished our first stage with the schematic design, and we're taking everything that's been shared at all the great community engagement opportunities where we had our workshops. And unfortunately, everything that was proposed, we can't keep. And we're just trying to find the best way to keep this project under budget and to keep this project moving forward. So a lot of the conversation today or the heart of the conversation will be getting your feedback on some of the proposed options to get this project back under budget. And we'll go into more detail as that time arises. Next slide, please. So once again, my name is Robertson Castor. I'm from the Public Facilities Department that does all the capital construction for the City of Boston. Our director is Carrie Griffin, who is not in the call today. Evan Brinkman is also Assistant Director of Design. Pat Mulvey-Welsh, Assistant Director of Operations, and myself and Michael Susi, who's our Senior Review Architect. I'll pass it over to Brett from UTIL.
Great, thanks, Robertson. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brett Benson. I'm a principal at UTIL. We're the architects and designers that are designing this project alongside PFD and BCYF, and of course, all of you. So with me on the call tonight are my colleagues Petra, Andrew, and Alessandro. You're going to hear from many of us tonight throughout the course of the day. But to not dwell on the introductions, I'm going to hand it over to Marta to introduce the BCYF team.
Thank you, Brett. Good evening. I'm Marta Rivera. I'm the Commissioner of the Boston Centers for Youth and Families, BCYF. And we are what PFD calls the client for this project. I'd like to introduce some folks on the call. We have our Public Information Officer, Sandy Holden. We have our Region Operations Manager, Sean Webb. And the team I'm introducing is, again, BCYF Central Office, as well as the team that is for this area. Erin McCarthy is the program manager for this area. Eddie McGuire is our director of operations. I don't believe he's on the call, and neither is Annie Chin, who's our chief of staff. She's at another meeting. And last but not least, we have Adi Pomales, who's the center director for the Grove Hall Senior Center. We also want to acknowledge and thank the members of the Community Engagement Committee. I won't read the entire list, but they're listed there, and some of them are with us this evening. Raise your hand if you're part of the Community Engagement Committee. And we want to acknowledge and thank you. And I will turn it back to Brett at this time.
All right, great. Well, I think we're going to get into the meat of the schedule here, unless Robertson, you had any last words that you wanted to make before we get into it.
No, I think this is a great place to start, just kind of letting everyone know where we are. Thank you.
All right, so Petra, take it away.
Great, thank you. So this graphic represents our project schedule for the community center and the general time frame that we will have for community input. We are currently at about the midpoint of the early design phase, which is approximately 9 months long, as indicated here. This phase follows the 2022 study that we completed for PFD and BCYF for the community center site and program. The 9 months of early design phase includes activities such as confirming site conditions, confirming activities to determine the types of spaces we would need, determining how the spaces fit and interact with the site, developing the overall interior and exterior design, setting the sustainability goals for the project, conducting a traffic study to better understand the parking demands, which is currently ongoing. This phase is also where a majority of the community input will happen and has been happening all along as we solidify the program for the building and then move into the technical design phase. The technical design phase is about 6 months long and includes detailed development of the building plans, detailed coordination with consultants, and building systems, selection of materials, among others. After the technical design phase, we would be moving into the construction phase before move-in and opening.
And just before you continue there, Brett, Petra, thank you. I just want to open up the floor to any elected officials that may be attending our meeting that'd like to just make their presence known. Are there any elected officials on the call? All right, how about any members of the press? You want to also give members of the press an opportunity to identify themselves at this time. No others? All right, Petra, thank you. Keep going.
Thank you. So zooming into the community input timeline, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, we are currently at about the midpoint of early design and about midway through the community engagement timeline before we move into technical design for the project. We are having public meeting 3 right now tonight to get everybody's feedback on how we move forward on this project. Following this meeting, we would move into developing detailed floor plans, which we would get feedback on at an additional series of community workshops that we hope to hold in April or early May. After that, we would want to check in with you all again to download what we've learned from the workshops and how that has informed our building plans. As I mentioned, I'm going to go on to the next slide here. That's today. As I mentioned, the 2022 study we completed was the jumping off point for the early design of this project. During the study, we developed a preliminary program for the project and selected a project site with PFD, BCYF. This phase included survey feedback from the community to determine desired preliminary programming with the goal of establishing a budget. After this phase, we moved into community engagement. Excuse me one moment, just having. Is my screen showing? I
Yes, it is.
apologize for the technical difficulty here. Back. So we completed a series of community engagement workshops and public meetings with you all to get feedback about what the program in this building wanted to be. And get everybody's kind of wish list of program elements that they wanted to see in the building, to see if, you know, how much of what you all wanted could be incorporated. After that, we developed, we worked to kind of analyze that information and develop a series of spaces that could accommodate a lot of the programs that we had been talking about, that people had expressed interest in. And we determined, you know, some of those programs to go on level 1, level 2, and that's kind of how we set up our initial pass at laying out kind of a diagrammatic floor plan. So floor 1, we were thinking, you know, that could host the senior room, the community room, a kind of teaching kitchen, a gym, and potential walking track, fitness studios, pool and the related locker rooms, and a public plaza at the entry. At level 2, we had after school space, a teen room or teen center, and some additional flexible programming space, along with a tech lab, a maker space, art room, and additional support spaces. So we also had incorporated a roof terrace on the second floor. And I'll turn it over. Oh, before I turn it over, I'll just mention, you know, we did a lot of site analysis, some of which, you know, we shared at our last meeting, to look at the best place for the building entrance and the best place for the gym and the pool on the site. And that led to kind of the initial plans that we developed with the goal of getting a cost estimate for the building. And I'll turn it over to Brett now to talk more about the building floor plans.
Great. Yeah. So thanks, Petra. Part of our early design phase was putting together these conceptual floor plans that you see, really to get an understanding of how all of the spaces could fit on the site and which spaces might be next to each other. I'm going to walk through these very briefly to give you a little bit of an overview. On the left-hand side is the ground floor plan, the right-hand side, the second floor plan. As Petra was just saying, what we determined is that based on the types of activities and uses, the building program will fall onto 2 floors across this site. So on the left-hand side, starting on the ground floor plan, we're imagining that you enter the building close to the center along Geneva Avenue. On the left-hand side will be the swimming pool and its associated locker rooms, including some gender-neutral changing rooms. And on the right-hand side, on the upper right, you can see the gymnasium with some of its associated support spaces, as well as 2 fitness studios. And then down closer to Geneva Avenue is the senior center, the community room, and the demonstration kitchen. And then up on the second level, we were imagining on the second level an art room, after school care, and the teen center closer to Geneva Avenue. And then overlooking the gym, the tech lab, maker space, some back of house restrooms, and then that flexible space that Petra mentioned, as well as the walking track that would go around the gym. And we were looking at a roof deck on that second level as well. Petra, maybe you could go to the next slide. So we took all of that, and yes, elevator, of course, linking both of those 2 floors. We took all of that information. We worked with our consultant to develop a preliminary cost estimate for all of that building program on this site. The estimate came back at about $54.5 million. The approved budget for the project is $50 million. So we're a little bit over budget. You know, that is really a result of the kind of the reality of very high construction costs throughout the city of Boston and really throughout New England right now. And it's just something, a reality that we have to face. But it's also not uncommon for us to be a little bit over budget at this very early phase of the design process. As Petra said, the very early phases is for us to develop a wish list of everything that we could hope to have in the building. And we've accommodated most of that, but there are a few things that maybe we need to look at that we could reduce or eliminate or consolidate so that we can get back on budget. And it is very important for us to be on budget at this very early phase. As we develop the design, the building will get more detailed. There will be additional costs that we come to understand. And we want to make sure that we're starting off at this very early phase right on budget. So what we'll go through for the rest of the evening is some potential cost saving reductions that would get us back onto budget. And we want your feedback on all of these. So we'll have some proposals, we'll have some alternatives to discuss. And at the end, we'll open it up to Q&A and some comments so that we can get your feedback on all of this. Next
Thanks,
slide.
Brett.
Oh,
Before
go ahead,
you
Robertson.
continue, I just wanted to echo that statement. You know, at this stage of the project, we really try to capture as much as we can, get as much of what the community is looking for, and seeing how we can make it all work. And then it's typical to get to this point and you get a dollar price that's beyond what's been allotted for a project. So these are definitely not easy discussions to have in terms of trying to find the right way to get us back. But as long as we do it all together and we work together, I think we can find a solution that works for everyone. And I think that's really the intent of this meeting today, is to share with you what we can do to make this all work, and what may have to go, what may stay, and what options are available. Just no decisions have been made at this point in terms of what these options are, but we at the city did ask UTIL and their team to put together some options here, and this is what they're going to share with us. So thank you to UTIL for this effort.
Great, thanks, Robertson, for clarifying that for us. So we looked at a number of potential cost savings measures. We wanted to make sure that they were distributed across all of the major functions of the building. So that includes the community and education spaces, that includes the swimming pool, that includes the gym and fitness, and it also includes outdoor spaces. So we're going to go through a few of these one by one, and then at the end, like I said, we'll open it up for some feedback. Next slide. All right, so starting with the community and education spaces, we're looking at the flexible classroom as an area to potentially eliminate from the program. And that's really because we have other flexible education-focused spaces throughout the building that can be used to host many different types of activities that would have been in that flexible classroom. So there's the after-school program room, there's the community room space, there's the teen center, the senior center, even potentially one of the fitness studios that will be a very flexible studio. All of those spaces can be used to host the type of programming that might happen in a flex classroom. And so we think that that might be a part of the program that could be eliminated to get us back onto budget. We also looked at the recording studio. So we had included in those conceptual drawings and the cost estimate a dedicated recording studio. There's a lot of cost wrapped up in that. And so what we're proposing is that there can be software and equipment that's provided within the tech lab or even the teen center that will give most of the functionality, maybe not all of it, but a lot of the functionality that would come with a recording studio. Next slide. And then we looked at the community room, and we have a couple of options that we want to review. So this first option is to reduce the size of the dedicated community room and think of it as something that can be used more flexibly with the senior center. So we're proposing to enlarge the senior center slightly to make it fully subdividable or open to a flexible community space next door. So on this floor plan on the left, you can see the senior center. That space would include storage. It would include a small meeting room for seniors to have private meetings. And that would be able to open up to a more flexible community space or be subdivided in the case of a meeting happening at the same time as senior programming next door. It also allows different programs for seniors to happen at the same time during the day, We know that a lot of the senior programming happens during the day and that meetings tend to happen in the evening. And so we see that those functions can actually kind of ebb and flow in that space throughout the day. And that flexible community room would also be open to the senior center. So in the case of a larger community meeting, the senior center furniture could be moved out of the way, put into a storage room, and could serve as overflow space for a larger community meeting. And what you can see on this plan over on the right is that allows us to remove an area that's outlined in blue, a certain amount of square footage from the building to help control some of our costs. And on the next slide, you can see that we looked at a second option, which would be to eliminate the community room altogether. And in this option, potentially community programming could happen in the existing senior center that is across the street within the Grove Hall Library and Burke High School building. And there are also other community resources nearby through the Burke or the Frederick or even the library that could host other community meetings. So that would be something that we can get your feedback on tonight. Next.
Thanks, Brett. As part of the indoor sports and fitness program cost savings measures, we looked at a whole number of different options, and we looked at a few specifically related to the walking track and the gym sizing. So one of the options that we are looking at is eliminating the walking track, which had been proposed to be on level 2. Kind of suspended, within the gym space. And I'll just go to the, oops, go back here. Okay. So let me go to this slide, which is a blow up of what I'm talking about here. So the track is suspended over the gym space, and eliminating the track would allow us to keep the size of the gym.
Can you give me a call back when you get this message?
Would allow us to keep the size of the gym that we had proposed initially, which was providing a regulation size high school size regulation basketball court for the full size of the gym, and 2 middle school size cross courts, allowing a pretty kind of sizable play area. The other advantage of this was that the emergency shelter, which this gym would serve as, the size of it would not be impacted. So those are some advantages of removing the walking track as an option, kind of in the indoor sports and fitness. Option 2 was really looking at reducing the gym size overall, so keeping the track and making the cross courts a lot smaller. This had some advantages, but one of the main disadvantages was that it would need to be paired with additional cost reductions. It didn't move the needle very much. So we looked at another option, which was going to a middle school size court rather than a high school size court, and even smaller cross courts, but keeping the track. This also didn't quite feel potentially like the right direction, just because it was sacrificing a lot of play area at the expense of keeping the track, which would be a less kind of, or in our minds, a little bit less utilized throughout the day than the gym might be. So generally our preference was for removing the track, but we do want to hear from you all if you have any thoughts. I think we skipped over, there's a slide out of order here. I'll move it back. I'll give it back to Brett to talk about the pool.
Yeah, and one other option or thought on the indoor walking track is that we've considered other ways to incorporate walking paths throughout the building to make sure that there's that potential for people who don't want to walk outside when the weather is bad to be able to take a different path through the building. And so we're definitely looking into options for that as we move forward with the design. Relative to the pool, there are a couple of options that we looked at for the pool. The first one is the pool as proposed in the cost estimate was a 25-yard, 6-lane swimming pool with a 0 entry ramp to get into the pool. That is a little bit larger than most pools in BCYF system, which tend to be 5 lanes wide and 25 yards long. So what we're proposing is to provide a pool that is 5 lanes rather than 6 and keep that ramp. This will still allow competitions to happen within this pool, but we'll put it more in line with the size of other pools within the BCYF system and comes with some cost savings. We had also incorporated a dedicated viewing area that was separate from the pool deck in our cost estimate. We think that that space can be provided within the lobby, which will have a view into the pool, so that if there are parents and caregivers who do not want to sit on the pool deck while their child or loved one is having swimming lessons, they can sit and be comfortable in the lobby and look into the pool deck. There will also be seating provided at the pool deck as well for those who want to sit on the pool deck and be closer to the water. So we think removing that viewing area would be another potential option. We had incorporated 4 gender neutral changing rooms in addition to the 2 gendered locker rooms. That's a little bit above and beyond what BCYF really needed. And so we're proposing to eliminate 2 of those gender neutral changing rooms and keeping 2 in the building moving forward. Next one.
The final area that we looked at was really kind of outdoor space. And for this one, we are providing a fairly sizable public plaza at the ground level. We're also doing significant streetscaping around the building, providing street trees on all the sides of the building. And so kind of looking at, both ground floor and second floor for outdoor space, we were proposing to remove the second floor roof terrace and to keep all of the proposed streetscaping at the ground floor.
All right, so next steps. Next steps for us will show on the next slide. This will be the same schedule that we showed earlier in the process, but what we really want to get is your feedback tonight on these options that we've reviewed. Based on that feedback, we are going to move forward with the next round of designing the building, developing more detailed floor plans, looking at the interior and the exterior design. We want to launch into a number of community workshops following the same groups that we met with earlier in this process. So talking to the kids at the Frederick and the Burke, going to the Grove Hall Senior Center and engaging with the seniors, and then having another open house at the Vine Street Community Center. We anticipate that happening in the next couple of months. And then we'll have more community meetings. Like Petra said, we'll report back on the results of those workshops, and we'll present some of those more detailed plans and update everyone on the progress of the design as we move forward. So with that, we're going to hit it over to Robertson and move into the Q&A and feedback session.
Thank you, Brett, and thank you, Petra, as well. And we definitely inundated you with a lot of information today. But please, this is the chance for really to get your voice heard and to share your opinions. I do see some questions have been popping up in the chat, or comments have been popping up in the chat, and I appreciate those. But as you see on the slide in front of you, there are several options or ways to provide your comments. You can do the chat box below, or you can also raise your hand and we will give you the floor to ask your question. Also, this will be recorded and posted, so you can always go back later on and review these slides. And if you have any further questions, I believe my email address is on the website. When you click the link on the right-hand side, boston.gov/BCYF-Grove-Hall. I see one hand up, Stacy's iPhone. Stacy.
Good evening. So first I would like to ask whether or not you will be sharing the PowerPoint with us so that we can actually have, something hard copy in our hands to look at. And hopefully that can be sent out as an email. Secondly, the community center, the proposed elimination or reductions, there are three areas that I think should the fact that you're going to eliminate the recording studio is sad, but is there a way to be able to create a space where it is designed as a studio without the equipment, so that if let's say how the community wants to do fundraising or to get someone to donate the equipment, that the space is already set up with the hookups and things like that, so that that can move forward, if that's something that the community would like to come together on. That's the first question. The walking track, I was super excited about that because it creates a safe space for elderly people, people who are retired, people who work from home, who might want to, leave their home and go, just do a leisurely walk and get some fresh air. So I'm not feeling really good about eliminating that. And to me, I can't see how much cost that would actually save. So that's my second thing. And I believe you were talking about eliminating one of the classrooms, and what was going to be in the classroom that would make it something, that would save that much money, that space, to be able to have that teachable classroom. So those are my, I guess, 4 questions.
Thank you, Stacy, for your questions. The first question, well, you had asked about the recording and the PowerPoint. Both of those will be made available after the meeting. They will be posted to the city, to BCYF's website. We can share the slide again that had that information, for sure. So you'll definitely be able to have access to the slideshow. I want to say that the things I definitely understand your comments and your concerns, and trust me, none of these proposed cost savings were easy options. But we have to at least prepare some options so that we can go back to the community and see what the temperature is. With the recording studio, I think that's something that we're still exploring, is how, when we're going back and reconfiguring spaces, how can we reconfigure a space or provide enough flexibility to be able to hook up and still have a space to do some kind of recording, as opposed to a dedicated space where that's the only thing you do in there. We're really at a place where we have to start cutting back some square footages, and once again, these are just ideas that are being proposed, but definitely figure out other ways to still make those options possible is definitely on the table. The walking track is another one. We definitely have had the same understanding or same thought process with that, but there are costs that are related to that in terms of structurally having it there, and the impact it has to the rest of the building in terms of accessibility and whatnot. To give a finite dollar value is probably not the easiest way. It's just a combination of things that are eliminated when you do that. But once again, not a final decision. If there's a strong push for it, and we have to look at other ways to get that in, I think that's not far off the table. Once again, these are just all proposed options. And with the classroom, the flexibility that the classroom brings is, as helpful as it is, we're trying to make sure that all spaces in the building are as flexible as can be, and can provide various usages. We are working within a limited footprint and a limited budget, so trying to make it all happen isn't gonna really happen. But if there's a way to create opportunities to make certain things happen without having a dedicated room or space to it, we'd like to at least explore that so that we don't eliminate all the programming, but we create opportunities so that programming can be done at convenient times. That's something that's once again all still on the table. We're just looking at what makes sense and what the community feels makes sense too.
And I appreciate you answering those things. Lastly, I just want to share with you that I live in a condominium complex that does not have a recreation space. So it's just the townhouses and a parking space. And so we have had to utilize the Grove Hall Library to have meetings and things like that. And they really don't have that much space. And you have to sign up for it. It's not something that you can just walk in and there's space available for you. So everybody, so I think, you know, working with the idea that the library is going to be a place where we can use space, to me doesn't seem wise. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And plus those meeting spaces in the library are really not that big. And we have 16 units, and you know, homeowners and their families and things like that, and we can barely get them in some of the meeting spaces in there. Just wanted to throw that in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Any other questions, or I can jump over to some of the chat questions?
Yeah, it's Chris Fowler from Project Right.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, I just want to as what she said about the recording studio. I mean, I know this is just suggestions, but I mean, a lot of the young kids growing up now, they're starting to get into music, and maybe it's a way we could like leave some type of studio or something to, you know, project more positivity in the music. I know it's different types of music, so maybe we can keep that and project more positivity within the music, because I know it is negative music as well. So, and as far as the classroom situation, the flexibility, you know, I was thinking like, you know, within our dynamic, within our area, we have a lot of learning disabilities within our community, and the learning disabilities could be of multiple different things. So classrooms is much needed, no matter what we're teaching or what are we trying to give to the youth or to the elderly, whatever they need to learn. And as far as learning, it could be learning like future job training classes, financial education. Financial education is something that has never really been taught to these kids growing up. So they get to a certain age and don't know how to finance their money, and housing has become a big problem in our neighborhood, where everybody's just couch to couch and living with everybody. So maybe training classes to get them set up to be more independent. That way they can move forward and not need all the time. You know, like they can have fun, and that's a great thing. You know, they there's a lot of indoor sports, and I see a lot of things that's could help them have fun, but they also need to learn as well. Learn how to be independent and self-sufficient. So do need classroom space to teach the community on what they need to do, because that's one of the biggest things right now in our community. Kids don't know nothing no more. They don't know anything but fun. We need to teach them something different. And if they go to school now, they don't even want to be in school at this point, because it's when they grow up, they don't use anything that they learned in school. But financial education is very important, because when they grow up, they start They want to know how to make money, how to live on their own, and they starting to learn too late. So, and it leaves them couch to couch, and it leaves them homeless. And so maybe we can boost up the learning thing for these kids and the training classes, and keep them trained on different career jobs. So at least if they fail a little bit, at least they still have the knowledge when they go somewhere else, because they could walk away with knowledge. At least they can do that and walk away with the knowledge to work at another job. And that's the goal, to help the kids while they're even not there, to help the community while they're not there. You understand what I'm trying to get at?
Thank you, Chris. You definitely understand that. We want to create opportunity for people to come learn and to grow and better their situations. And that, you know, I think that
They are the future. They are the future. They are
without
the
a doubt.
future. They will get our age one day. And we want them to be able to not go through the same struggles that we went through, with having to self-teach and self-learn all the time. And this is it's a circle. It keeps going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and nobody's really learning nothing. It's just pleasing somebody for the moment, I guess how you say it, but we're not setting them up for their future. They might not understand their future at this moment. So if they be like, oh no, we don't want, you're gonna get some resentment from the young kids, where they're gonna be like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go to this classroom. We don't want to learn in this. But if we stay fighting and we stay consistent, these young folks, they're human beings as well. So these young folks, sometimes they be like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go step into class. I'm gonna learn about financial education. If we find a way to keep these classrooms there for them to learn and not make it so much fun all the time, let them have fun. That is great. But when you overdo it, the kids, they can get a little, we know how they are. So
Mhm.
the best thing to do, in my opinion, and this is everybody, with everybody's opinion, but is to get them learning something, whether they like it or not, and they can take away from it whether they hear or not. Because we love the community, and we want the community to do great, whether they hear or whether they not hear. You know what I mean? We want them to do better when they go to interviews. We need motivational interview training. There's something called motivational interview training. These kids don't know about that. They don't know about how to go to an interview, what to say, how to say it. These are things that they need to be taught early, instead of waiting until they pass 30 to even get to that point, you know? And
I'm with
and only one more thing, I don't want to hold everybody up, but one more thing I wanted to ask is the exits, and I remember us talking about metal detectors before, but the exits and the enter and the exits in the building, as far as like safety reasons, and
Mhm.
how many exits are we planning on, you know, um having in the building?
We're gonna have as many as required by code, by the building codes. Those actually drive the required amount of exits, but the key will be making sure we have line of sight so that BCYF can secure the building and monitor these exits properly.
And I do have a grandfather that I do take care of, that lives in the community. I have a grandfather who's old, and I help him get to dialysis 3 days a week. I pick him up 3 days a week. Um, he um he retired a little early, I think, so he doesn't have enough money to have the ride pick him up from home and bring him to dialysis. He doesn't have enough money for certain things. Um, Medical reasons, and things like that. And so with the elderly thing, it's a great thing to have, the elderly involved, or somewhere for the elderly to go, instead of like a old person home where all the old people just go. It's like, that's a great thing that we can have, somewhere where seniors can go, however they sign up, and have something to do to keep them active, because he has nothing to do to keep him active. And that's a great thing as well. I just want to, I just want to put that in the air. But yeah, I'm worried about the youth. I'm worried about the youth a lot, like deeply. I'm passionate about the youth in our community, because they're going to be the ones to change it, whether it's good or bad. And we have to play a part in that now. And we're not going to see the results for years, but we have to put our foot to the pavement, put our foot to the dirt in the ground, and make these type of changes so we can teach them when they're not around us. When there's the school systems is different. The school systems is way different than how I grew up. So they need to
I'm with you,
learn.
Chris.
And I'm not gonna hold you up, but I'm just very passionate about this. And
No problem.
I want us to, I want them to learn. I want them to be taught. We all have to be taught in a small ways. All ages could just come to that classroom. We need the classroom. We need classrooms. We need to learn.
Thanks, Chris. I do want to say that what we're trying to accomplish is to create opportunities to host the types of programs that you're talking about. And creating the amount of flexibility in the building is key to creating an environment where those activities can take place. So when we're talking about reducing by a classroom, we're not talking about taking away the opportunity to have the programs or the types of lessons that you mentioned, but we're gonna be creating them regardless. It might not be as many as we want because there's so many things we'd like to do in one building, and keeping that in mind, and knowing that if we take something away here or we add something here, it means taking away something on the other end. So it's a fine line to walk in terms of establishing the right amount of classrooms, right amount of fitness space, the right amount of room for seniors and their activities and whatnot. So all this it's a balancing act that we want to make sure that the community can use and maximize those opportunities. So once again, those opportunities aren't taken away. It's just a matter of coordinating with BCYF with the spaces that they have. And what we're doing here is adding on to what they have in their inventory, regardless of how many classrooms are going to be there. So I do want to stress that there's definitely going to be opportunities to have those classes, and there is space in this new building to be able to have those classes. It'll just take some coordination and working with BCYF so that their operations can support them, and that there could be time allotted accordingly for all those various activities. Thank you, Chris, for your comments. So I'd like to pass the mic to Emmanuel. I know he's had his hand up for a while.
Good evening, everyone. I had a question about, are we talking about the square footage of the building? Or are when we talk about eliminating space, are we talking about the walls and the minimizing the square footage of the building? Or are we talking about also the space within the building and the cost that it would take to build a classroom or right? So that's the question I had that will help me clarify or help me ask another question.
Sure thing. The key to understanding is that we were given a budget to create a community center of a certain amount of size based on the land that was there. That was prior to the community engagement processes that we went to, where we went and did the workshops with everyone, trying to understand what they would like to see at the community center. So a budget was established based on a square footage that could fit within the property. Now, after hearing from the community and hearing all the various things the community would like to do there, what we do is we take all that and see, can we fit this all in one place? Can we fit this all here? And if that's the case, what would it take to make that happen? And our team, UTL, did that and said, well, we had a building size roughly 50,000 square feet or so. It's just giving you an arbitrary number. But to fit all these various activities that we would like to accomplish, this building would have to grow. And the building that we've been showing is much larger than we anticipated based on the budget. And so now, as we're reviewing these cost-saving measures, it's going to come ultimately with shrinking down the square footage of the building to a degree. So when we're looking at cost savings for a room or a program, it's not just the finishes, but the structure that goes into it, the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing that's all related to these pieces. those costs come out with those removal of some of those spaces. So I hope that kind of paints a better picture. I hope that answers your question in a way that helps you with the rest of the questions that you may have.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. So the next question is, when you look at a lot of new spaces today in schools across the country and other buildings, there's a lot of collapsible walls that turned larger spaces into smaller spaces into larger spaces. When I see the first floor where the senior center is, I know you talked about some of that space being utilized for big larger spaces and smaller spaces. But I don't know what the code would be for the city of Boston. But even the walls that would separate those spaces from the halls, are there ways that those walls can be collapsible, right? And so now I don't know what the cost would be, or what that cost would be in terms of having collapsible walls that you could just have these multiple open space that then turns into classrooms or whatever rooms we need into the budget and into the design model. Or are we talking about permanent rooms walls that cannot be used for anything else but that square footage of what it's called for?
Thanks, Emmanuel. Brett, Petra, would you mind going to the slide showing the proposed reconfiguration of the senior room? I think that can tie back to Emmanuel's point regarding the flexible walls. And would you mind talking more about what we're looking to accomplish there regarding the partitions, the movable partitions?
Sure. So I'll jump in, and what we're proposing in this space is that there would be the dash line. I don't know, Petra, if you can kind of hover over it with your mouse. That would be a fully collapsible wall. It would have good acoustic properties so that you could have programming on both sides of that wall, and not be bothered on one side or the other. But when there's events, if the senior center is having a very large event and they want to overflow into that flexible community space, they could do that. If after in the evening hours, if there's a larger in-person community meeting, that wall could also be opened up. Some of the furniture in the senior center could be pushed out of the way, and you could have a much larger community room. So we really want that space to be flexible. And there's other spaces that we had been talking about incorporating that same type of flexible, collapsible wall so that they can be subdivided. Again, BCYF has always told us that they need the maximum flexibility in this space so that they can have larger spaces when it's needed for the programming, but then also subdivide into smaller spaces. So we're trying to incorporate that as much as we possibly can into this building. As for the walls out into the corridor, we can certainly look into that as we develop the design a little bit further. We're just not quite at that level yet.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I'll pass it over to Stacy.
Thank you. So I heard what Chris was saying, and in regards to what we need to provide for the young people. I was at a meeting on Monday, the 20th, in regards to planning for the summer and summer safety for high impact communities, right? And this in the Roxbury community, it was driven by the youth. And I can have the actual notes and share it with you guys. But the things that they said that they wanted to have access to were financial literacy, job training, learning, actually a space for kids who get displaced because their parents are upset with them. And if there could be a space where they can wash their clothes and where they can make themselves a meal, and so I was very excited about this Grove Hall community center because it seemed like, with the idea of having the kitchen area and things like that, that's something that we can adapt to allow these, let's say, older teens, 16, 18, 20, a place where they don't have to be on the street, but they can come to a place and get themselves together and get the services and the support that they need. And so I, I have, I think like about 4 to 6 pages of notes of what these young people are saying that they need. And I'm sure that the space will be well utilized. If we build it, then they will come, you know? So that's something to keep in mind. And the city is actually hosting that meeting to find out how to keep our community safe. So I don't know if there's a way that we can get them to invest or, work with BCYF to be able to subsidize some of the things that we might have to eliminate. And we have another meeting in March. I believe it's March 22nd. So I will bring the concerns of this meeting to that meeting to see, if the city's interested in, you know, joining in on, because this is going to be a new building with new ideas and things like that, and see whether or not they want to be a part of that. I don't know.
Hi, Stacy. This is Commissioner Rivera from BCYF. So I'm not sure if it's clear, but we are a city department. So we are aware of the meetings that my colleague Isaac is having around the city. He's hosted some of them at some of our BCYF facilities across the city. So he's briefed us. We're meeting with him. Some of the what I call promise people, young people.
Yes.
Are people that
Yes.
we employ over the summer and throughout the year through the Office of Youth Employment Engagement, as well as in partnership with Isaac and Youth Connect. So we're very much aligned. And as far as putting washer, dryer, those things are actually simple amenities that we have been adding to our new facilities, because not only can it be used by young adults that might be housing challenged or couch surfing, but it's also something that even for some of the younger kids that might have accidents, those are simple things that we can put in, don't take up a lot of space. So I want to thank you for raising that, but wanted to make sure that I mentioned that we are a city department and very aligned with those efforts.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. That's why I was kind of saying to myself, shouldn't the city be aware of this? But I'm glad that you did share that with me. So thank you.
Sorry, thank you for that. Mark, I'd like to give Mark a chance to speak.
About that, here I am.
While
Yeah,
you're on-
hello. So I think that we just need to I'm going to try to get my video up, but there we go. Okay, I hope I'm on. But anyway, I think we need to reach out and try to see if we get a couple of angels to secure the part of the funds that we're short on. Boston Celtics, New England Patriots, the new sneaker company came in, Converse. We have some rich companies and rich people, influential people that live here in Roxbury, Dorchester, city of Boston. And we're only short $5 million. I'm sure if you guys reach out to those individuals that I just mentioned and some others, the universities, the colleges that don't pay any taxes at all, and we can come up with that $5 million that you guys are short. We just need to do a strong campaign to get them to come on board to help out. It's been a long time since we've had any kind of new development in this part of Dorchester, Roxbury. Our YMCA are old, our boys clubs are old. The newest thing in here is the Reggie Lewis Track Center, which is at the other end of town. So please really look into your financial. I know how you're being funded for this, but if those individuals that I mentioned are not being tapped, then that's a resource that you guys really need to look into, because I hear the Patriots are joining New England. There's New Edge, and they're trying to help them regrow that part of Boston and build housing. So, there's a lot of potential out there for wealthy people that live in Massachusetts, live in Boston, to contribute this shortfall of $5 million. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for those words. All right, Chris, you had your hand back up, and then Emmanuel. I'll give Chris the floor.
Yeah, I seen what I heard what Stacy said or whatever, and she's completely right. I was thinking about our necessities. What is the study like? Who's studying the community? Who's studying what the community needs rather than what the community wants? It's two different things. It needs to be studied and attacked. If we can have that, like, I need to see that. I'm not the expert, but I do. I'm interested in the study of what the community needs and numbers and things like that. Like, how many people is homeless? How many kids is homeless right now? When kids have, like, where's the therapy? Like, I deal with Bay Cove. I case manage a lot of clients as well. But where's the therapy? They need to be offered this therapy, and if they decline, we'll keep trying. But if their houses is not right, if they go home to houses that's not right, because they look like they having fun when they swimming in the pool and playing in the gym, but when they go home, their houses is not right, and in they can come back evil, they can come back angry, they can come back mad. So these are certain things that nobody talks about and nobody pays attention to, because they're living lives that a kid should not have to live. And they're not going to be worried about having fun at that moment. They're going to be worried about somebody to talk to. Where's the therapy at? And we have to attack our necessities a little more than our wants. And that's all I wanted to say. I know it's more talk we could talk. And if anybody need me to reach out, anybody need a personal conversation, I'm here. I'll leave my email in the chat. But yeah, that's what I'm worried about, the numbers and the study of our community, and what does our community need? Like, what is the necessity of our community? Where's the numbers dropping at? How many kids is becoming homeless now? How many kids is 25 years old living with their parents or their friends, and their houses is not right. Their clothes is not right. We don't know how long they've been wearing them pair of jeans when they come into the facility. We don't know. And we need to attack this behavioral health situation with these kids, and maybe older adults too need behavioral health. I actually talked to a therapist at this time, and so it's like I feel like we need to attack our necessities, and we need to study our community necessities, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Robertson, if it's okay with you, I'll go through the chat and maybe try to answer some of the questions that are on the list there, just to give everybody a chance to collect their thoughts, and also want to just be respectful of everybody's time tonight, so we can try to go through and get some of those questions answered. There's a question about elevator for ADA access, and Robertson, you had answered that in the chat, that yes, there will be an elevator linking the 2 floors. There was a question about the walking track. Could it possibly be installed above the gym as an outdoor walking track? We did think about that. It does bring with it extra cost. So we want to, just along those same lines of having accessibility for everybody, we would need to bring the elevator up to that level. We would need to extend stairs up there. So unfortunately, I think that might be going in the wrong direction in terms of cost. But we do think, as I said earlier, that there are some other great options for incorporating walking tracks or walking paths within the existing community center without having a dedicated walking track and all of the cost that's wrapped up in it, having it be above the gym itself. There's also a couple of questions about sustainability around solar panels and heat pumps for heating and cooling. So yes, we are still looking into the possibility of solar panels. The city has an arrangement of power purchase agreements where companies can come in and install our solar panels on the roof of the building to help offset the electricity use. So we're absolutely looking into that possibility. And this building will also be an all-electric building, so heat pumps for heating and cooling. The city does have some very ambitious sustainability goals, and we need to meet all of those here as well. I also wanted to follow up on an earlier question about the recording studio and potentially making that something that there could be infrastructure in place and future fundraising could potentially outfit it later on. And that's absolutely a possibility. There are even recording studios that you can buy almost like furniture that get installed into a building. And we can look into making sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure so that when and if the funding is available, that something like that could be installed within the building. And I also just want to follow up on some of the flexible classroom or flexibility of these spaces that, while we have been kind of focused on the areas that we're looking at to potentially save some money, that there are also quite a few areas within the building that are still remaining that are very flexible and open for a lot of different programming depending on the time of day. So those include the after school program. It includes the dedicated teen center, the senior center, a community room, fitness studios, and the gym itself. All of those are very flexible spaces and are used depending on the type of day in all of BCYF's community centers in many, many different ways. And so the programming that we've been hearing your feedback about tonight, I think can still be accommodated within this building with all of the great spaces that we're providing here. So I just wanted to give Robertson a little bit of a break and everybody a chance to kind of collect their thoughts a little bit more and go through the chat. But with that, I'll kind of hand it back if anybody wants to raise their hand and have some more comments or questions.
Mike, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, can we ask our interpreters if they can ask if there's any questions? I'm just curious to know, and if we have to improve our outreach in terms of any of our language specific communities, if our interpreters can ask if there's any questions on their as they're translating, so we can see if there's any feedback, and we can actually see if there's any participation, so we know we need to do better outreach next time.
So Mike, I don't think we have the technology to know if anybody is in the interpretation channels, but I was just flipping through and the interpreters were asking if there were any questions. So we'll let the interpreters raise their hand if there are any questions that can be addressed, and we'll try to answer them. It sounds like there are none.
I do also want to note that if folks have questions or come up with questions later on, my email information is on the BCYF website that was mentioned earlier. Petra, if you can show that slide with just the BCYF website for those who are like to either get a copy of this presentation later or listen to the recording on the right-hand side there, boston.gov /BCYF-Grove-Hall. We'll give it to Mark.
Thank you. Again,
Is there anybody?
just wanted to know
sorry.
about the weight room. Was the weight room going to be, what size is it? And do they already have an idea if it's going to be a fitness person in there to help people out because sometimes weight rooms are dangerous. And I'll
So
leave it
your-
at that, wait for a response.
So your question was about the weight room. Will there be a weight room?
Yes, will there be a weight room and will there be somebody in there to help people? Because sometimes people get hurt by weights. They don't know what they're doing.
Right now, there's a proposed fitness room. We haven't discussed the equipment that's going to be in there yet. If there are specific equipment that you would like to recommend or advise against, we'll take all types of feedback on that type of stuff. So,
Well,
Hey,
most
Mark, I
definitely-
have a connection too with inner city weightlifting. I have a connection with inner city weightlifting. There's a lot of trainers too that I have a connection with as well. So when that time comes, if you can connect with me, and I can get in touch with a couple trainers. My son actually trains with one of the inner city weightlifting people. So in the city weightlifting trainer, sorry. So if you want, you can get in contact with me, and when the time comes, I can connect a professional trainer and with anybody and everybody. So I just want to put that out in the open.
Appreciate that information, and it still just goes back to the city. So how big will this room be? Would it be able to accommodate 50 people, 30 people, 20 people? What size is this room going to be? And is it going to be staffed? And I'll leave it at that again.
sizes haven't been finalized yet. Right now, we're at the fit test, just identifying spaces. I can't say that there's a set size or max people in it, but those are things that are going to be part of ongoing discussions. So we haven't finalized that yet. We just know that we've made accommodations to have some kind of fitness room set up.
This is, I think it was Mike, or I'm not sure if it was Mike or Mark who asked the question. This is Mark, the BCYF commissioner. The fitness centers we have at other facilities, they are not staffed. So just if this is, we do have occasionally people that come in and do trainings, and Chris mentioned inner city weightlifting. So any of those trainers that come into the building, we'd have to contract with them, but it's not unusual. Again, to have entities or vendors come in and run classes, we just have to contract with them. But we don't have set staff that are in the center or in the space like a personal trainer.
Okay, all right. So the question comes back to who does staff the building? How is that going to work?
That's BCYF staff. So they're not
And
dedicated to that space, but there'll be an athletic director. What we typically have is athletic personnel, youth workers, senior workers, an administrator, program supervisor. That's pretty custodian. So those are some general positions.
Okay, and what about, the times are very dangerous right now. What about security for the building? How is that going to be worked? And you're going to be having that already set up? Is it going to be securing locked doors? All those things, because we're talking about our youth and our children being in the building. All that needs to be put into this plan. And I'd really like to hear about that.
So we've not gotten to the details of security, but much like our other facilities, that knock on wood, right? We have safe environments for our youth. We have 35 facilities across the city, none of which have metal detectors. And again, to date, we have a great track record working with our youth and families.
And that's another thing that I wanted to address too. When I said about the exits, the ends, like how to get in and how to get out. I went to the Burke High School right before they got metal detectors. And when they got metal detectors, kids were still coming through the emergency fire exit, bringing in weapons and things like that. So that's why I asked about the exits, and he's right about the security when somebody leaves their kid there. Because it's like, we don't want to hope. We don't want to like, we know anything could happen, but we don't want to be, just roll our dice and be like, what happened? We don't, that's not the thought that a parent wants in their head. Oh,
No.
we'll see.
Well,
You know, so
I hear you, Chris, and to the point of like locked doors, so the doors that are rooms that are not being used will be locked. There'll be, either keypad with staff access only, because we don't want youth loitering or kids loitering through the building either. Accessing the building, you have to register as a member to access a building. Right now, we have check-ins, and this will be very much like our existing facilities, again, that you check in at the front desk, head into the activity or to the space that you're supposed to be in with staff throughout the building.
that's great.
We also have, in addition to sort of the requirement to check in, the buzzers at the doors. During peak hours, those buzzers will be deactivated because we want people to just walk into the building again, check in. But we do have the ability to sort of secure the building, lock it. And these are some of the things that we anticipate this building will have, cameras at certain locations. So we're not just, oblivious to some of the needs. But that's some of the measures, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, you got your hand up?
Yes, there's been some discussion, and I'm actually all for the pool and seeing the need for the pool. Marta or someone from BCYF, can you talk about why you think a pool is so important, especially in a standalone facility that you can actually control and what the need actually is?
Yeah, I saw in the chat that the YMCA and Boys and Girls Clubs have pools, but one of the things we know is that there's actually a huge demand for pools a lot. They're heavily utilized. Our existing pools are maxed out in terms of, when they're operating. We also have a lifeguard shortage. So we want to make sure that we have those pools to be able to create a pipeline to create lifeguards. Excellent career. And when we look at who the kids are that are having, that are either drowning or can't swim, it's our kids of color. So that is definitely one of our commitments and priorities. So not only do we want to make lessons available for Black and Brown kids in our communities, we also want to make sure that it's available for free. I think if Nadine is still on the call, she's our our regional operations manager for aquatics. With many years of experience and also a parent of kids that learn to swim through BCYF pools. I don't know if she wants to chime in.
I am here. And I would say, I would only add to that is job opportunities, creating the pipeline for lifeguards learn to swim on top of what Marta has said is critically important now. And we have specialized initiatives. We're working with USA Swimming to increase that, but it's critically important to do so in our communities of color and create that pipeline for jobs. Many of our lifeguards go on to be EMTs, police officers, firefighters. So it's a great start. And again, like Marta said, there is a major commitment.
Thanks, Nadine.
And repenting and asking for forgiveness.
I'd like to give Charles Woodoo a chance.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. The contribution I have to make is the need not to forget programs that promote cultural and diversity. In our community today, we continue to have different people with different color, different background, different experiences coming together to cohabit in our community. And one of the ways we can promote safety is the need to have activities or room dedicated for cultural and diversity program in a project like this. Something that we continue, a place that is being dedicated, a room dedicated for cultural and diversity program, where youth of different colors come together to have activity. It may be quarterly activities, annual activities, or biannual activities that will help to strengthen the unity and progress of our community. And that is my contribution. I strongly believe that it will help to promote peace and progress of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
Would you like to add to that? Charles, did you have something you want to add, or is I see your hand still raised?
No, I'm done. That's just my contribution.
All right.
I can add about the pool situation. I heard I don't know who just said it about the more color kids are drowning. We're getting a pool. What we're saying we want a pool or something, and we had a lack of lifeguards, and more color kids are drowning. I see that as a problem. That we will have a pool in mind when more color kids are drowning and we lack lifeguards. I think it's kind of backwards. I think the first step should be training. I forgot who said something like that just now, but
Chris,
training
it's
as
Nadine.
far as
Chris,
yes,
it's
thank you.
Nadine.
Thank you so much, Nadine. It is training. It's the first step is training.
Well,
The kids
the first step is learning to swim.
exactly that. Yep,
Right?
that's exactly what
And
I'm talking
so
about.
you can't learn to swim without a pool, and that's why the pool is critically important to be there. And we want to put in place learn to swim, not only for children but adults too. And we're also looking at children that have disabilities. However, there is a pipeline that we are creating with the pools that are now open to increase our lifeguards so that we'll have enough to put in place when Grove Hall is finished. And then that in turn, we will put certified lifeguards and instructors there so that the training will be a part of and inbred in there as soon as the building opens and starts. So the training will be there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Nadine.
Welcome.
All right, I'd like to take this opportunity to conclude the meeting. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I appreciate everyone being here and staying and sharing their thoughts. And we encourage you to continue to provide your feedback as we want to make sure we design a community center that best reflects what the community needs. Once again, I point to the link in the screen on the slide in front of you for additional information, for a copy of this presentation for those who weren't able to be there for the entire presentation. As I mentioned before, my email address is listed there. So if you ever want to share any more information or feedback and you didn't get a chance to, or an idea comes up to you later in the day or to any time, please feel free to send your thoughts and your feedback. We look forward to our next community meeting, which will be announced soon. But please also be on the lookout for the workshops. Visit the BCYF page. So that's where they'll be posting the information for the workshops so that folks can attend and be a part and also take part in the design of the design process. So thank you all. I'd like to conclude the meeting at this point.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.